Okay, let me just start by saying that Michael Myers is definitely Cobra Kai material. Strike first! Strike hard! No mercy! I know everyone's been giving their 2 cents on this, but I guess I might as well take a stab at it myself.
See what I did there?
There's a lot to unpack, so let's jump right in. To start, I never thought a simple Halloween movie would be under such scrutiny. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward plot. An escaped mental patient in a white mask goes around killing teens and townsfolk on Halloween. Simple, direct. Not to say these films haven't made a mess of things over the years. Hell, the entire franchise has become something of a choose-your-own-adventure timeline. But that was exactly the point of the 2018 film, a return to basics. And for what it was worth, it did pretty okay, even if it was a little recycled. Myers escapes, finds his way back to Haddonfield, chaos ensues. Only this time, no Loomis, and no sibling storyline. But with all these established plot points removed, we're left to continue with whatever is derived from the original film 40 years later, which, sadly, isn't very much. Standard teen drama and suburban family living.
I got peanut butter on my penis.
Ew, Dad.
As well as a continued fascination with Myers. At least this time around, more urgent efforts are taken once they realize that Myers escaped the fire. Tommy Doyle is quick to initiate/organize a riot/mob to hunt down Myers more or less on a whim. From here, it's a cat and mouse game as the mob is one step behind Myers' bloody havoc through town, finding body after body as the panic swells and the people swarm every corner looking for Myers. Nothing is really fleshed out for anyone except a series of disjointed flashbacks from Hawkins, which is really only there to re-establish the closing events of the 1978 film. And to be perfectly honest, I was a little lost at this point in the film. I had forgotten it was a reset timeline, which I think could say was one of the biggest downfalls of this film. With effectively trying to rewrite history, it leaves us with next to no investment left in any of these characters, save for Laurie Strode, of course.
What's the boogeyman?
And anyone we did establish in the 2018 film, if they even made it this far, is killed off.
No exceptions!
Which brings me to my next point. Since this is a continuation of the original film, we're greeted with a few familiar faces, including Marion Chambers, Lee Brackett, Tommy Doyle, Lindsay Wallace, and even Lonnie, who I'm assuming is the same Lonnie we know.
Hey, Lonnie, get your ass away from there.
And yes, we even get a cameo from Dr. Loomis, played by Tom Jones Jr., which I will give credit to. While you can't replace Donald Pleasance, of course, it made me blink thinking that maybe this could possibly have been some unused footage from the 78 film. It's good enough, kept to a minimum, just enough to get the tone across. And it was neat to see Nancy Stevens and Charles Cyphers and Kyle Richards reprising their roles, albeit somewhat inconsequential. And of course we have Jamie Lee Curtis reprising, but in a rather weak capacity. She's left recouping in the hospital throughout the film as she's mostly banters back and forth with Hawkins about the night in 78. She really doesn't contribute too much to the story, but let's face it, nobody really does. As we find out, everybody on screen is pretty much on borrowed time, and there's not really too much to invest in because of that fact, unfortunately. Now, here's where the bulk of my complaints reside, I'm afraid. It's just such a disjointed progression with flashbacks of the original and the multiple perspectives that don't really go anywhere. As I've said, Laurie and Hawkins, stuck in the hospital, we're left with Tommy and his mob as they hunt down Myers. And even though they cross paths at a certain point, it seems like more of a commentary on mob mentality, really. It's even further emphasized when Laurie's daughter Karen calls the crowd sheep when they're in pursuit of the wrong man. But my biggest problem, as I've said, is with the flashback scenes. They only exist to clean up the narrative for us. It serves no other purpose and really doesn't add much, if anything, to the story as a whole. I was comfortable enough with the knowledge of knowing that Hawkins was there that night in the 78 film. I really didn't need to see it. The thing is, I like both perspectives on their own, but working off of one another, I felt like it was needing to pay attention to two different movies. But hey, that's just me. Now, one thing I really couldn't overlook was the writing. This is what I do, and is one of the first things I pay attention to when watching any film. And I have to say that some of the dialogue here was pretty hard to stomach, almost to the point of being cringeworthy. I mean, it felt like I was watching Halloween Resurrection all over again. Nothing felt natural. And before you start to argue, yes, I understand, this is a Halloween film. It's not exactly written by Aaron Sorkin, I get it, but that's sort of my point. I mean, you have all the elements in place for an effective horror film, and you have to ruin it with lines like,
"Hey, Michael, it's Halloween. Everyone's entitled to one good scare."
well, that's right, because he said that in the first movie. Yeah, you deserve to die for that one. I know it's not what we came to this movie for. We came to see Michael Myers wreak havoc. So, how was Michael Myers? In a word, savage. This is by far the most ruthless Myers has ever been. There is no quarter given, nobody is spared, and of course,
No mercy.
none whatsoever. This rendition of Myers is about as close as we've come to the '78 film, which was Carpenter's idea to begin with.
I met him 15 years ago. I was told there was nothing left.
And was described as such in the outstanding speech by Dr. Loomis as,
Purely and simply evil.
and that's it. That's all Myers was ever meant to be. As straightforward a concept as that is, it is difficult to construct an intriguing story around it. You need something more than a killer hacking his way through townsfolk for nearly 2 hours. Now, that's not to say it wasn't thrilling to see. When I say nobody is spared, I mean nobody. Just when you think you're going to get a break, the next body drops. If there was a definition of evil, this is it. Myers is merciless, and with no one to stand in his way now, he is a force to be reckoned with. And James Jude Courtney does a great job of carrying the shape as it was. He's not a mongoloid or an intimidating cult figure of any kind, and he has no designated target, so anyone and everyone is at risk. Myers is back to being this unassuming figure that, even after watching all the slaughter, when he's standing still, he looks like someone you can walk right by and not give a second thought to. That's because he has no reason, no conscience, no understanding, and not even the most rudimentary sense of life or death, good or evil, right or wrong. And that's what makes Michael Myers truly scary. So to wrap this up, I have to say that Halloween Kills was something of a disappointment for me, and has been such for many Halloween fans, unfortunately. If you ask me, I think it was the extra year in anticipation that gave the film more hype than it could handle. The 2018 film was a welcome return to formula, with just enough callbacks and Easter eggs to get reacquainted and introduce a new crop of fans to the franchise. Somehow they dropped the ball with Halloween Kills, suffering from the old notion of too much of a good thing can be a bad thing. It definitely leaned into the killings much more than before, and a savvy observer may even catch the numerous hints at previous entries. There's a lot of nods to the past films, many of which I caught from Part 3, Part 5, as well as the original. For what it's worth, it definitely keeps your attention for the duration, so I will say it's worth the viewing, but only as so far as to get it out of your system. If you were like most anyone else just seething with anticipation for this film, go check it out.
Go check it out.
So go ahead, go see Halloween Kills and let us know your thoughts on the film in the comments below. Are you looking forward to Halloween Ends next year? I know I am, because after 13 installments, thank you all for showing up. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Tell your friends, and be safe out there this haunting season. And as always, I will see you on the other side.
And happy Halloween.